Hello, everybody. My name is Joe Crucera, and welcome to the Hour of Sales Power. I am live here in Los Angeles, California, and we are welcoming you tonight to a great evening of sales talk and some sales techniques that hopefully everybody can benefit from. And I have with me my co-host, Mr. Rick Picard.
Hi, Joe. How you doing? Hi, everybody out there.
It's nice to see you again, Rick. We took a little bit of a hiatus. Well, tonight's subject is a very exciting one. We're talking about 21 core values of heavy hitters and what the strong salespeople in the contracting industry all share in common, the 21 things they all share in common. Now, Rick, we don't have a lot of time for all 21 things. We've got 60 minutes to try and cover all this stuff. That means we got to only got about 3 minutes per 20. If there's 21, we only got 3 minutes per core value. Tonight we're going to talk about 21 core values. Rick, let's just talk about that in general. Is it you saw the 21 core values. We talked about a little bit before some of these habits that people have. How important are developing habits in sales? I mean, both good and bad, and to recognize what habits you have. Go ahead and just talk about what a habit is.
Well, yes, there are good habits and bad habits, but if we develop our good habits, it's going to keep us on track. Sometimes I find when things are going really well, we tend to be complacent and maybe drift off course a little bit, right, Joe?
Mm-hmm.
So if we develop good habits and we stick to them, it's going to keep us from developing bad habits that can be detrimental to our sales. So by having core values that we go by, it's going to develop good habits.
Yeah, and I think these core values we're talking about are things that a heavy hitter or somebody who is successful, instead of having to worry about making a decision on something, the decision has already been made that under certain conditions you're going to do certain things. You're not going to blame other people, for instance. You're going to just look inward instead of blaming. So those are things that values are the things that create habits. They're the things that you're kind of well of the internal person that's inside of you that has made a decision already that no matter what, we're sticking to these values that we firmly believe in. A lot of people have who are very, very strong leaders have certain values that they place forward, and of course, a person who follows their values very strongly, of course, develops a lot of good leaders too. Don't you think, Rick?
Right, exactly. I think that's what we look for in leaders, right? We look at their values, and if we can relate to their values, then they're acceptable to us and attractive to us. So, and that's what we follow. So, core values are very important.
Right. Well, let's get going right on the list here, Rick. We don't want to spend too much time and waste too much time with just conjecture. We promised to go over these core values, so let's talk about them. The number one core value is that a heavy hitter salesperson has written or concrete goals to measure himself. I guess what I'm saying by this, Rick, is that I've noticed a trend that people who are successful, they know the score, meaning that if I were to ask somebody what they sold for the week or what they did this last week or how you doing, they wouldn't have some kind of a vague answer. How important is it that you keep your eye on the ball as to know what you're doing and how much you've accomplished or how far you are from your goal?
It's very important. I know myself, I set personal goals for myself, a closing ratio. I also set personal goals for myself for how many sales I'm going to have in a week, which of course turns into what volume of sales for a month and for a year. So I'm constantly looking at where I am on the map and where I'm going, and if I have to take extra calls or work extra hard, make sure that I reach those goals. And when you have a high level of sales, it's even more important to do that, Joe, because you don't want to get into the think, well, hey, I've already sold $3 million this year. I don't really have to work that hard, right? So if you have a lofty goal and you always trying to attain that goal, it's going to keep you motivated to go in the right direction.
Yeah, so a heavy hitter will know where they're at every single moment. They'll know every week that if my goal is $20,000 for a week, for instance, for a technician, he'll know that every day he's trying to make $4,000. And so if he's going to get involved with a service call that's going to take him half a day, he's already saying, well, no matter what, this call is going to be $2,000 somehow. In his mind, he's already got it figured that we're going to be at $2,000. If I'm going to spend half a day out here, it's going to be $2,000. And probably a salesperson thinks the same way, right, Rick? If you're going to involve your crew, do you have a figure in mind that, hey, if I'm going to involve one of my crews and give up that currency I have for my crew, and then I got to maintain my goals, how fast and what's the velocity of this job for the amount of dollars people are going to spend, right?
Exactly right, and we use that all the time. For instance, sometimes when you think about maybe taking a cut-in job instead of a replacement, I mean, you could do a $10,000 cut-in job that may take you 2 days, or you could do a one-day replacement at $10,000 to take 1 day.
Right.
So it really helps us to pick what kind of work we really want to go after and what's going to help us attain our goal. Helps us keep focused on the work that's best for us and the company.
Right. Well, somebody like you, Rick, your goal is you're really telling me when you said you were like a $5 million goal. You set for the season, right? For the whole year from January through December, right? Kind of what you set your goal at.
Yeah. So my goal is $400,000 a month.
So
$100,000 a week.
Yeah, so if you do $400,000 a month, it'll be close to that $5 million. It'll be $480,000, give or take a few thousand here or there. If you see you're getting close, you could probably turn on the gas and just start.
That's what I try to shoot for.
Yeah, try to achieve your goal to get somewhere close to it, right? And so you know that if you're going to give up a crew for a whole day, for you to get to that kind of a money at $400,000, that's basically you're saying $100,000 a week, or between $100,000 and $120,000 a week, something like that. You're looking to sell, right?
Right. Exactly.
And so these goals are pretty solid in your mind. So you're saying $100,000 a week. So that's really you're saying about $20,000 a day. 5 days times 20 is $100,000. You're saying that every day for all the sales you make, you got to start moving at the rate of about $20,000 a day is what you're saying to yourself. And you have some dissonance. The goal being set probably has some dissonance if you go 2 or 3 days where you haven't sold anything, right, Rick?
Oh, exactly right. And that's what really motivated me to work that 6th day a week. If I don't reach that goal in those 5 days, I'm definitely going to try to book more calls for Saturday and try to, it's like my bonus day, right? Try to catch up.
Right. So we won't spend too much time on this, but bottom line is that a heavy hitter, even in baseball, a heavy hitter like Big Papi over there in Boston, I'm sure he wouldn't go to the ballpark every day not knowing how many home runs he hit or what his batting average was. He's of course thinking about the team, but he's also thinking about how his personal efforts and his goals help the team achieve what they're trying to do. Right?
Definitely true. Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. So now we're going on to goal number 2. So the number one core value is setting goals and having a written goal and knowing where you're at and knowing what the score is. Number 2 is that a heavy hitter uses the strategy, a system, or an action plan to follow each day. Rick, how important is it to actually follow a system of sales as opposed to just winging it every day?
Oh, it's very important to have a system and a strategy. I mean, it's imperative for me. I mean, I use the system that you taught me, right, in the total immersion seminars. And, about the right time to give an estimate and determining who the decision makers are and how I'm going to gain more information, I'm going to give information. These strategies and systems and action plans that I use are really the key to success. Right.
So the bottom line is that you're going to try to follow a system without having a system. Really, what is there to actually you'd stop being able to try and improve anything, right? If you, like I say, if you were a hitter in baseball, if you weren't following a certain system of trying to hit a certain way, then how would you know how to improve, right? You wouldn't have any effort. You'd just be trial and error every single call, right?
Right, and I would really think that if you didn't have some kind of system to follow, it'd almost be like going on a trip without a map. I mean, I guess you could probably get eventually where you wanted to go, but I think you'd waste a lot of time trying to do it, right? So I guess I would say a strategy or system is really your roadmap to success.
Right. Exactly. So I think that's just a written thing. So to follow a system or strategy, of course, the strategy we use, Rick, is one that to make sure that you're going to make a presentation, creating 6 options, getting the customer to sell you, and also making sure that you present to the right person at the right time, right? And that just pretty much sums it in a nutshell. I mean, it's like you try and keep it simple for yourself. You can't sit there and think about the entire system in each word for word. But what's important is to know, what am I trying to accomplish? So you're trying to accomplish getting the customer enthusiastic by selling you, dealing with the competition and seeing where you're at relative to the competition, making a presentation with many options, starting at the top with the best option at the top and the most economic option at the bottom. To have something that's so bad nobody would ever choose it, and to have something so good nobody would ever choose it probably. That would be kind of a strategy going into your presentation, and then also to be ready for objections, right, and be ready to close.
Right, exactly.
And so to have a strategy, it's an important thing. Number 3, a heavy hitter looks at success and failure as positive feedback to learn and adjust. Rick, how do you learn and adjust from customers? What do they teach you about things on your calls you go on?
Well, there's a lot of things. I mean, from a positive standpoint, a lot of times after you have the sale, you'll ask them, so what is it exactly that, I'm always trying to develop my sales technique and provide the best service I can for my customers. What is it about what I may have said or done that really helped you decide to make this decision today? And, you'd be surprised about the things the customer will tell you that, obviously you want to do more of those things, right?
Right. So obviously...
Is when it doesn't work out. And you say, now that it's over and you're definitely not going to buy it from me, what is it that really made you feel as though you couldn't do business with me? What was it? Now, I use that because I'm opening up the door again for more opportunities to get the sale, right?
Right.
Sometimes just by asking that question, you'll be able to find out what it is and instantly correct it. But sometimes you don't, and you're able to get positive feedback about failure that will help you to not make those same mistakes again.
Exactly. So number 3, a person who's a heavy hitter looks at success and failure as just something that happens, and they learn from that success and failure. And of course, the person to learn from, the best consultant you're ever going to have is your customer, right, Rick?
Right. Exactly.
Right. And then we move on to number 4. Rick, this is one of my biggest ones, or one of my pet peeves with salespeople, is that a heavy hitter, number 4, takes responsibility for the results and does not blame other things around him, right? So what would you say about that, Rick?
The 21 core values, this is my favorite by far. And the reason this is my favorite one is because it gives me the power and the control to make the changes I need to make myself more successful. Many people fall into that trap, right? Oh, they didn't buy you pick your reason, right? And it's always an external reason why they didn't buy. The customer was cheap, or somebody else was too cheap, right? We've heard them all, right, Joe?
Right, exactly. So we could blame that customers are cheap. How about the economy right now? We hear a lot of people saying that it's slow, it's the economy, things like that. I mean, what do you think about those kind of excuses, Rick?
Right, and what happens is, let's face it, there's nothing we can do about the economy. There's nothing we can do about the competition being too cheap, right? There's nothing we can do about that. But so if we blame all that, we're really rendering ourselves powerless to change the situation. But if we take responsibility and don't blame it on the economy and really look at what really is going on, now we have the ability to change ourselves and become more successful. But I think taking responsibility is one of the core values that you taught me to do, Joe, that has helped me out the most, because it's helped me to look at myself clearly and make the adjustments as I need to make them.
So instead of giving it up to somebody else, like it's the customer's fault, or even, there's another part of it too. Responsibility isn't just always bad things, right? You don't got to take responsibility for only bad things. When good things happen, it's important to realize, what did I do that I got to take responsibility for that sale happening in a good way too, right? And what did I do? And that's part of that learning experience, like we talked about, that when you do get a good result or a bad result, that's important to know why I got that result, not just and to me, it's not very...
A lot of us have no problem taking responsibility when it goes good. You know what I mean?
Well, Rick, isn't it fun though? Isn't it kind of fun though when, let's think back in the old days when you were successful, you had some a level of success, but you didn't quite know exactly why you were successful when you were successful. Whatever it was you did, is kind of like, wow, that went well. I don't know why we got sold that one. You didn't realize there was a reason why. Well, I think now you can say something like, man, when I said these words, I knew it rang clear. I saw a look on his face. I knew that point was the difference. Like you can probably look at your calls now, Rick. Can't you look at those calls now and say, that's where I lost them, or that's where I got them?
Right. I can really. There's a pivotal point that I can tell on how a call is going, and I can tell you why I sold a lot before. It's because I was just a very functional person as far as paperwork wise, right, Joe? I mean, I would always show up to every appointment on time. Right, that's half the battle, right? Mm-hmm. Every customer would get a quote immediately, and then I would hound them to death. Right? I mean, that was my modus operandi, and so that's why I sold what I sold. So I really can't say it was functional, but I understand why I sold a lot before. You know what I mean?
Right.
Compared to by me taking responsibility for my positive and negative results now, the real reason why a customer bought. It wasn't just because I was the only one who was showing up on time.
Right. And Rick, I guess the biggest thing for this is that when we look at taking responsibility for our success and our failure, we realize that the second we start blaming something out there that's not us for our bad results, then really we've given up all control of our sales, and we're just hope everything. All we can do now is hope to get better. There's no everything's a wish, or I hope we sell this job, as opposed to getting out there and actually doing something to change the routine to sell it. I think a good basketball team or a good football team is a good example of that. If you are losing in the first half, but you don't go into halftime, make an adjustment, if you don't know what to adjust about, then you can't take responsibility. If you're blaming the other team, they're playing dirty. I remember early in the Chicago Bulls days when they were going through their championship run, when before they start winning championships, when the big nemesis was the Detroit Pistons. And I remember everybody was blaming the Pistons for playing dirty, and they were a very dirty team and fouling a lot and that type of stuff. And then they just had to deal with it. They said, you know what, we can't be blaming the Detroit Pistons for them playing hard. That's how people should play to win a championship. We have to just play harder than that. And they kind of measured themselves against their nemesis and said we have to be better than our nemesis. We can't blame it when the other contractors are cheaper. So if the other contractors are cheaper, you got to show a greater value, right, Rick? You can't sit there and blame other contractors because their prices are cheap or whatever. You're going to try and lowball competition, or you're going to blame the economy. That's stuff that is just doesn't make any sense to even start blaming it. It sounds like a whining player who lost the championship.
Right, exactly.
I guess enough said. You capped that off. Of course, you guys have won a few championships recently, but you're not on a good run right now, are you?
No, but we're doing all right. The Celtics now, right? There are hope now. The Celtics, I think, are 4-1. I mean, they won the championship last year. We're all set this year, too.
Well, you guys always got somebody. I'll tell you that. You got first you had the Red Sox, then you had the Patriots, and the Patriots are first, I guess, then the Red Sox, and then now you got these Celtics. And so that should keep you warm all winter. Of course, in a kind of climate you guys are in, you're going to need something to cheer about.
That's true.
All right, Rick. Number 5. Here we go. A heavy hitter is value number 4. Core value number 5 is has strong self-confidence. Knows his personal and professional roles are unique. Meaning that I think somebody who is a heavy hitter can lose a call or can lose a game and come back right next game and not even let the last one affect them. And what do you think about that, Rick? How important is confidence to your success?
I mean, this is another one area like about strong self-confidence. I mean, let's face it, I work for a company that we sell at a premium because we provide a premium service. There's no way that I could get the amount of money more that I get than the competition if I didn't have strong self-confidence in myself and the company, right? I mean, I know that we're a lot higher than our competition, but when's the last time you bought something that was of higher value that didn't cost more, right? Mm-hmm. And so I know that my company provides the best service and the best product of anybody in the area. So I feel that myself, the way that I give options to my customers and the way I present my packages and package the services I provide for my customers and the way that my company services the customers is unique, and that it makes me confident when I'm selling. And there's the thing about confidence. You can't fake it. It's like with a dog. You try to fake it with a dog, you get bitten. Right? I mean, they can sense whether you're confident or not. So it's very important to display that strong self-confidence.
Rick, what does confidence look like? I mean, what is the thing? If you lack confidence, what things should you be aware of that gives off the vibe of being confident or not? I mean, it's an important factor. But how does the customer know if we're confident or if we're not confident? What do you think that is?
Well, it's definitely how our whole system is functional. But it's also how we respond to them, right? I mean, if they throw out the objection, well, you're very expensive, and we're like, we don't have an answer for it. I mean, it really shows we're not confident in our price, right? But if we can say to them, well, of course it's more expensive. I mean, when's the last time you bought something that was better that didn't cost more? There's no doubt this is a premium investment. So just by the way you handle the objection to the customer can see, let's face it, if you're not convinced that you're worth more, there's no way you're going to convince the customer you are. So
I think confidence starts with kind of belief in what you're doing is correct. It's the best thing you're offering people, and that you're not sold that somebody else is better. So obviously, I think if you don't have confidence, it means you're not sold on yourself even. And so I think one of the things, now that's a deep question, how can you get sold on yourself? And I guess you can train your mannerisms to make sure you keep your chin up, look people in the eye, and you don't hesitate, meaning you have a response for every single event that's going on, which then makes people say, man, this guy is on the ball. I can't...
I think you touched on a good point there, too. I think too many salespeople are too concerned about the competition, right? Myself, I don't care about the competition. They're irrelevant to me because I have the confidence that no one's going to offer what me and my company's going to offer. So if you're as a salesperson too worried about what the competition is doing all the time, that's really a sign of lack of self-confidence, right?
Right.
You know, because if you believe that they're doing the same you are at a lower price, then that's not really strong self-confidence.
Yeah, after that, you might as well start hiring the competition to do your jobs, right?
Right.
Or just go work for the competition if that's the case. If you feel they're doing the same job you're doing, but they're just cheaper, it'd be a hell of a lot easier than just to sell, apparently, right?
Right.
You know, the funny part about that, Rick, I remember one company I gave, they were telling me about how their prices were too high, and I told them, I said, well, just go ahead for the whole week then. I said, let's try 2 days. What's the, right now you guys are closing about 70% of your service calls. I said, why don't you go ahead and just try and lower the price of anything you want. Let's give it 2 days. Go ahead and just lower it. I mean, I talked to your boss. He said, it's okay. Go ahead and just lower the price. And that means you should get every job then, right? Well, what happened was the closing rate went from 70% down to 23%.
Wow.
You know, so even the fact that they lowered the price made him look even more pathetic. You know, so the fact was they were obviously pathetic to begin with, and then they lower the price, it even makes it look worse. So the bottom line is that, you know, there is no such thing as confidence does mean a lot. And I think that the price and those type of things are just, those are noise. That's a crowd noise for a champion. They don't look at that stuff. They're looking at the play they're running, and they're going to run that play with confidence, right?
Right.
So the number six core value is to have a supportive belief. Meaning that, of course, that means you're going to understand how you're okay to look at other people's point of view, even though you don't agree with it, but you still want to listen to what they're saying. How important is it to kind of put yourself in the other person's shoes, Rick, when you're as a salesperson? How important is that?
Well, it's very important because it's the only way you can be accepted by the customer, right? So if a customer says something, any kind of objection, I mean, it's very important to say, well, you know, I can understand, Joe, why you might feel that way. You know, it's important the customer feels that you're listening to them and that you're empathetic to how they feel. Now you're not agreeing with it, but you're showing that you're supportive of it. You understand why they might feel that way, and then now that gives you permission to be able to give a contrary idea about why that might not be the right way.
Yeah, so you can't. So actually, you're talking about the supportive belief to understand how other people feel is the first step in handling an objection, isn't it? Really, because how can we handle objection unless we know where that person's coming from? If we're just going to fire back our point of view without listening to that point of view and understanding it, if we understand the point of view and then point out where he's got some weaknesses in his point of view, we can't point those weaknesses out unless we understand it, right?
Right. Exactly.
And so I think so many people think it's just a game of a scripted fire back on responses. And Rick, firing back responses to people isn't going to, even though you might look confident, you're going to look arrogant to some degree sometimes, right? So there's a fine line between confidence and arrogance sometimes with that, isn't it?
Right, and that's not going to work well with a customer. You know, when you're supportive of a customer's belief, that's really a strong way to bond with the customer, right? But if you're just firing back without really listening to what they have to say, now you're just being pushy.
It is. It just comes off pushy and it comes off arrogant. But the first step to try and change the mind of somebody else that you disagree with is really to go ahead and empathize and understand what they say. So if somebody says your price is too high, then, of course, to see their point of view, you say, well, John, I understand. Hey, you know, the prices for everything is higher nowadays. You're right. I go to the gas station. I think the prices are high for things, too. Let me ask you a question, John. Isn't the price of everything high today? And they go, yeah, you're right. So what should we do? Take a look at these options, right? So there you go. It enables you to handle objections because you're giving somebody their point of view, which creates obligation for them to listen to your point of view with that, right, Rick?
Right.
Okay, so number 7, the core value number 7. We've got to move through these quick. We've got 21 core values to do, and I'm determined to get them done in 1 hour. Oh, my God, we're almost halfway done with the show. We've got to move fast. We're only 30% through, but we got to move quick.
I'm trying to talk left, Joe.
We got to have one of those countdown clocks or something like that, like they have on Countdown or something like that. Of course, you don't watch that show; you watch the other network. So Rick, how about they control emotions? And how important is it to control your emotions as a heavy hitter?
Oh, really? I mean, I think the first one who loses control is the loser, right? So you have to make sure that you control emotion. You use words precisely. You don't panic, and you really stick with what's going on and stay poised.
So poise means something. Poise, I think this thing where you control your emotions also shows confidence too, right? That you're not just going to give in to that point of view, and you're controlling your emotions. When somebody throws something at you, like, hey, your prices are way too high, and then you might feel inside like you've been exposed or something like that. You got to control that emotion and say, wait a second, that's not the case. The case is that we provide a high value. Of course, the prices are going to be much higher for that. And why would you want to go cheap anyway? I mean, you should be so sold on a premium option that you'd be like, well, why would you want to go cheap anyway, Bob? I mean, I'm showing you how little you get for a cheap option, right? And I think that's an important part of making your presentation is to have something cheap that matches the competition's price, but it shows how bad the quality is too, right, Rick? How important is that to make sure that, I know good options are important, to have a really top option that's very high investment and it's got a great service to it and great warranties, but how important is it to have a very poor option too?
Well, it's very important. I mean, I've had many times when I talk to customers about why they purchase, they said, your lease option was everybody else's only option. And so it really exposed them for trying to really not do the right thing by me. Right?
Exactly.
So, it's important that you have that there because it's very good for objection handling, but it's also good for really exposing the competition for, let's face it, majority of competition isn't really concerned with offering the best quality, especially not right up front. They usually start with the lowest quality first, right?
Exactly. Now, core value number 8, Rick, moving into that, is that a heavy hitter does not need approval. It's okay for him to hear no. So obviously, a heavy hitter is looking for decisions. Whether those decisions are yes or no, it doesn't make a difference to him. He's really looking for somebody to give him a conclusion to the call. And that conclusion, once he gets the conclusion, he can work on then turning that conclusion of a no to a yes if he wants to. But the bottom line is that you got to bring a job to the end to be able to know where to take it from here, right? If you get a yes, obviously the next thing to do is schedule it. If you get a no,
I don't know what that looks like, right? Some people say, well, all right, can you leave me some information I can think about it? Well, someone who needs other people's approval is going to say, oh, sure, you can leave that. Take your time, right? Where a heavy hitter will really ask the tough questions. Joe, if I was a guest, you're really not interested in anything I have to say at all. And so, what my greatest fear is? You just ask me to leave me something to think about it because you really have no interest in this. Am I right?
Right, exactly. Yeah, I know what you mean. So again, Rick, you're exploring that whole scenario where you're saying just trying to find the real truth. You're putting that truth out there as opposed to waiting for him to lie to you again, right? As a matter of fact, online there's somebody who said they had a person, I'm looking at the chat room, where he said he had a guy call yesterday and he said before we meet, can you go ahead and give him the prices over the phone before they meet tomorrow? Of course, I would say, well, John, if you don't want to do it my way, maybe we shouldn't meet at all. If you want to do it your own way, maybe we just shouldn't meet in the least. So you should be okay to hear the word no. So instead of saying yes, oh yeah, let me give you the prices over the phone before we meet tomorrow. What good is giving the prices over the phone when you haven't given a presentation, right, Rick?
Right. There's no way you can build any value in that. And that's like the worst thing you could possibly do. So you would really have to just say no to that situation. And we're talking about not needing approval, where it's okay to hear no. It's like you're actually, I think, a heavy hitter searches for no. It's trying to make the customer say no to them, so they can deal with it, right? So it's like they're not afraid of that no; they're actually searching for it.
Right. Exactly. So hey, we've got a system here that you got to follow. If you don't want to follow it, then find somebody else who doesn't have a system. You can follow that one. But hey, listen, if you're not going to do I got a system we're going to push through, and this system doesn't go my way, that we're not going to use. You're not going to use my company anyway. Odds are, right? I mean, odds are you're going to get a no on those kind of calls anyway. Why twist in the wind over this? And Rick, how when you make a presentation, how many times do you let that go to a different day? I mean, there's some times that people say, you know what, Rick, I want to go with your company, but I need time on these two options. Can I get till tomorrow or next day? I mean, how much time do you let go by? And then after you give a presentation that you're going to get a decision. I mean, how many times do you close on this? When you make a presentation, do you close?
I make sure that I really know what's going on, right? I make them say, well, you know what? It's already, if I was a guest, you're not really interested in doing business with you at all. You're just trying to be polite. I can appreciate that because talking to you, Joe, in the last 45 minutes, I can see you're a really polite person. So if that's what's really going on here, that's okay with me. So what I'll do is I really explore, do they really want to, because I have had people who really want to think about it, where I have bought for me, right? But what I've done is I said, all right, so today's Thursday, so that means like tomorrow at this time, is that enough time for you to make a decision? Well, yesterday was already told. I'm going to come back tomorrow at what time? And make a definite, there's no mystery. It's definitely, I know what's going to happen when I'm going to come back and get that decision.
Now, if they don't let you come back tomorrow, that tells you everything you need to know right there, doesn't it?
And then I call.
Yeah.
I'm like, you know, so then you just can't. So now I'm searching for the no now. Now there's something I got to think about. They want to buy from me. But now the evidence isn't saying that. I mean, so now you have to investigate that more and can't be afraid to get the no.
Right. Rick, the next core value is that heavy hitters are comfortable talking about money. Now, when we're all kids. I mean, not all of us, but some of us, like myself, for instance, I was told that it's rude to talk to people about money and that type of thing. Now, I know a part of your background was to get donations for people for your for some of the stuff when your parents had you grow up. They had part of it was to ask people for donations for your church and that type of stuff. And that probably helped a lot with that fact that I have a weakness where you don't so much, where I find it difficult. I have to overcome it. I know I have the weakness, but I have to overcome it. But a heavy hitter is comfortable talking about money with strangers. It's the bottom line. He has no problem throwing big numbers out at people, $30,000, $40,000 job, and he just feels like he deserves that work. It's not a big job to him. It's not.
Joe, I think you got to give yourself a little bit of credit. I have no problem about talking about large investments because I have a bunch of other investments that aren't as large, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if I went in there with one $35,000 option, that was all I had to offer, then I might be a little afraid of it, you know. But I'm not really afraid of that talking about large investments because I know if they're not happy with that, I have about 6 other choices for them to pick from, right?
Right. Well, that's true. So, given the options, then free you from the fact that since you have less expensive options, if they don't like that one, then they just go to the next one, right?
Right. So, you know, I'm comfortable talking about money because the system has freed me to be able to talk about all kinds of different price points. I'm really not afraid about talking about a $35,000 option because I know I got a $15,000 option in down the bottom, too.
Yeah, I remember when we first met how I closed all the walls on you because you were very reluctant to go into those bigger options like that, afraid of blowing the sale. And I start closing all the walls off on you, basically selling you on the system. And you're like, yeah, I guess you're right. There's nothing to lose, right? If they don't buy it, they don't buy it. Just got something cheaper to buy, right?
Right, exactly.
So I think you got to look at when you use the system we're talking about that you don't take away the cheap options. As a matter of fact, you're probably going to offer something cheaper than you normally offer right now. That'd be the fate. If your cheapest thing is $7,000 for a heating and air conditioning system, I'm probably going to tell you to go to something like $5,900 for a noisy, inefficient.
No one buys it.
Yeah, it's noisy, inefficient, breaks down. There's no service. The service is only from 9 to 5. It's only on the parts only, not on labor at all. We don't do any labor warranty on this. It's $5,900. Take your chances. Spin the wheel and hope it works for the next 10 years and take a chance on it, right?
Exactly.
And it kind of exposes all the weaknesses in your competition's game then through your presentation by showing them that if you do the cheap option. I think a lot of people neglect to put that inexpensive option down that is noisy, inefficient, breaks down a lot, has the warranty, a very limited warranty during normal working hours, only for the materials, not for any labor. You got to remove the trash yourself. That's all the bottom option. And, of course, nobody's going to buy it, but you do have to have that price somewhere near the competition so that people will say that's what the competition's charging $6,500. That's probably what I'm getting with those guys. I see why the price is so cheaper now. So it kind of answers that question, why is your price more money, right?
Right.
Because if you buy it cheaper, you get no service. So you get very little service, right?
Right.
All right, so thank you, Rick, for expanding on that for me and leaving me hang out to dry there.
Hey, we're in time constraints.
You're not a very good conversationalist. All right, I'm just teasing you.
You were doing so good. I figured, hit the ball, Joe. Run with it.
I'm just teasing you. Well, I like to watch you run sometimes, too. I'm getting a little tired here. So you're doing a great job, Rick. I'm just teasing you. How about number 10, the core value number 10? Yeah, oh my God, we are only halfway through here. Understands value, is not afraid to pay more for premium purchases. I think a heavy hitters, I've seen a lot of times, like I go to your house, Rick, and I got to admit, everything's pretty tricked out over there. You got, sure, it's not the. It's not like it's the Vanderbilts, but you do have a built-in swimming pool, and he's got a pull-down screen with a projector TV that the projector must be like 8 foot wide by 10 foot tall. 10 foot wide by 8 foot tall. He's got a complete bar room downstairs with a pool table, and it's a real nice setup. And you got a nice car. You don't just go cheap. You got a BMW, and you got yourself a Toyota, and then you got a smart car. You got stuff coming out of your rear end just because you always buy the best thing. I think that's true, isn't it? That I myself, I'm the same way. I try to treat myself to define a service so I know what it looks like, right?
Exactly. Let's face it, I like nicer things because I've learned you pay more money for them, and in the long run, they last longer, and they have better, more decent services with them.
I think that's a fact. I think that heavy hitters understand that they don't waste a lot of time. I think a heavy hitter would like this. Like let's say you and I were traveling together, Rick. Let's say we went to like a very likely scenario, like we went to France.
Right.
Who knows? We may go to France together someday. Maybe go to Italy. But we stroll into a town. Let's say we stroll into a town. We sit down at a restaurant. You and Monica and me and Julie. We all sit down and go to a restaurant. And then we look at the menu. And let's say we looked at the menu, and the menu looked like it was like the best thing on the menu was only $6. Do you think we would sit and have dinner there, or do you think we'd go on to somewhere else that it had to be more money? We couldn't even see the language. Like, the language would be completely foreign, right?
Right.
But we probably go to another restaurant, and we see that now the top thing on the menu, let's say the top thing on the menu is $75. What does that tell you about the quality? So a heavy hitter understands that when you look at high prices for anything, that there's a certain quality that goes with those high prices, like you just said, right?
Exactly. When you want to celebrate and go out, you go to Ruth's Chris. You don't go to McDonald's, right?
Exactly.
You have to. So you're looking for the premium.
I think the thing about the foreign language is perfect because you can't even see what the words are or what the description of the dish is, but you know that if it costs $50, it better be pretty damn good, right?
Right.
Because otherwise they would never have it on the menu. It would just not sell any of those things, right?
Right.
All right. So number 11. That was number 10. They understand value. They're not afraid to pay more for premium purchases. Number 11, the core value number 11 of a heavy hitter is they consistently and effectively know how to find new prospects. Meaning that, Rick, I've always said this to people. If somebody says, Joe, when should I add a new salesperson or when should I add a new technician to my company? And I always tell people that when a good technician shows up or when a good salesperson shows up, there's no reason not to hire him because a good salesperson will find a way to keep himself busy. Rick, isn't that true that part of a salesperson's job is to see opportunities to execute sales from people that you don't even have, the company doesn't give you? Maybe it's slow, but what can you do to kind of look back at your old prospects and maybe visit with them and ask them if there's anybody they know or if they have any other jobs they might need done, right?
Right.
I mean, if you were completely dead in the water, what would be the first thing you do? Let's say that Gem Plumbing, I know you are very fortunate to have great marketing over there at Gem Plumbing, but let's say they unplug their marketing and say, you know what, there's nothing coming in at all. And I guess you could sit on your dead ass and wait for calls to come in, but if you got those goals you talked about, what would you do?
Oh, I definitely would have to talk to people I did business with in the past, and I would have to, prospect and ask them, tell them I was looking for new good customers just like them, and if they could do anything to help. Then, of course, I would talk to friends and relatives or anybody I knew and let them know I was looking for good customers.
Or how about other calls you went to in the past? You could just go through your calls and say, you know what, I sold them a furnace and they were interested in air conditioning. I'm going to give them a call and tell them we could use the work right now and get going the air conditioning. How about technicians who go on calls and they sell a gas valve, but they realize there was no air cleaner on the call? Maybe they could have scheduled a future call for themselves to revisit. Maybe they're not ready for an air cleaner today, but maybe in February they might want an air cleaner. Maybe you could take some of those calls now. So a good salesperson will take some calls that they're on right now and see other opportunities that have nothing to do with the job they're on now, but go ahead and schedule an opportunity for themselves in the future and take the bull by the horns. Instead of having to go back and call those customers, while you're on the call now, notice other opportunities. Like if you're selling air conditioning and they got a boiler and the boiler looks like it's 40 years old, ask them about it. And say, yeah, probably next year. And you say, well, should I go ahead and put you on the schedule for next year to go ahead and just touch base with you? Yeah, why don't you do that? So you're basically getting an agreement to fill your schedule up with future calls. The best time to do that, though, I think, Rick, is right on the call you're on to see opportunities that have nothing to do with what you're doing. Like you see an old water heater, you sell the air conditioning unit, furnace unit, maybe you do throw a water heater in, but they're not ready for it now. I say, I want to do it, but not now. You tell the customer, hey, I see you didn't buy the water heater. We got the furnace and air conditioning job we're going to do. Why don't I go ahead and put the water heater down for like 6 months from now? I'll revisit that with you, and we'll talk about it then.
And there's other things you could do, Joe, and one that I do quite often is a lot of times I'll sell people furnaces and coils in the wintertime, and I make them a presentation on new furnace, coil, and condensing unit, all the way down to just the new furnace. And a lot of times they'll pick a furnace and a coil, but they'll leave that 10-year-old condensing unit there, right? So I have a whole list of people that I have who have purchased a furnace and a coil, but still are using an older condensing unit. And I will call them up, and especially what I'll do, especially if they finance it and they were financed for a certain amount of money, go and check how much they have left on that, if that balance has been paid off or the balance is still open with us. And once it's paid down, maybe send them a card or give them a call about maybe changing that older condensing unit now.
That's a good idea, yeah. So to use the current customers is a great way to stir up new business. Rick, core value number 12 is that they present their services to the right decision makers at the right time. How many times have you done in the past before where you were just at the wrong time, at the wrong place, the wrong people, and make a bad presentation because you made it to the wrong people before? How many times that ever happened back in the old days?
Even using your system at the beginning, I would put together the whole packages and talk about the whole thing, and then find out I'm not talking to the right person. You know, so really it's important to find out. You know, Joe, I'm just confirming. You're the one making the decision on this, right?
Oh yeah, of course I am.
Oh, good. All right, good. And there's nobody else involved. It's just you.
Well, my wife, she's got to be here.
Oh, I see, your wife. All right. We'll talk about some other type of things. Now I already know that I'm coming back to speak with his wife, especially if the wife's not there, right?
Right, exactly. So you're right, Rick. To present to the right person at the right time is the key issue. Your refusal to make a presentation. Hey, listen, guys. Everybody, you might be doing free estimates or making a free appointment, but you don't got to make a free presentation. The presentation you get paid for. The free estimate means I come out and look at things and I'll take a look at it for you. But the appointment or the presentation gets paid with the decision. Meaning that you don't do, it's not free. The freedom is that you can choose one, but if you don't choose one, three things could happen at the presentation. Either the customer purchases, the customer says no, or you could say no. Now, when you start saying no to a customer, that really shocks the heck out of them, and that makes them want to then turn around and say yes, right, Rick?
And this is really important, Joe. I have 3 presentations on Saturday, and 2 of them were on things where I would have guessed the customer's not going to make a decision right away. I went to one, the gas company shut off both the furnaces because they have that ultra vent. There are 80% furnaces that are PVC vented, and I don't know if you ever saw those.
Oh, yeah, huh?
Yeah, they're totally illegal, so the gas company shut them down. I think in this situation with no heat, you would have thought they were going to make a decision right away, right?
Right.
Well, through some investigation, talking with the wife, she wasn't going to make a decision without the husband, and they had other people coming on after me. All right? So it would have been a disaster for me to make the assumption because of the situation they're going to make a decision right away, and they're not going to be ready to make a decision until Saturday. So I'm meeting with the husband and wife on Saturday. But 2 calls like that I would say there's probably a 5% chance of me getting that job if I would have just presented to her when I was there on Tuesday.
Right. So the bottom line, you move that presentation to the right day. Now, whether you get it or not, the bottom line is you're going to get a decision. You can make your adjustments from there. But you can't adjust or make any kind of job to try and close the job unless you know where you're at the end of the job. That's the bottom line.
Right.
Rick, number 13, the core value number 13 for heavy hitters is they listen 80% of the time and talk 20%, meaning they listen more than they talk. How important is it to shut your mouth out there, Rick?
Well, that's what I do with you all the time. I listen 80% of the time and let you talk.
Well, I think doing a show like this is a little different, Rick. You got to use your talking skills. I should be the one listening. I'm doing too much talking then.
I'm learning from you. I learn more by listening.
Hey, who's running this website anyway, you or me?
You, that's why I'm listening.
Oh my goodness! Well, that's why I'm.
Very important.
That's why I'm calling you to learn too. You're right. Go ahead.
More information you get, and again, this is one of the things you really helped me with a lot, Joe, because I tend to want to tell the customer everything I know. But now, by me listening to them more, I find out all kinds of stuff. I find out who's been there, what the prices were, what they didn't like about them. I mean, it's just all you got to sit there and listen. And people will tell you everything, most of the time, everything you really want to know.
Yeah, I think the thing is you can't learn if you don't listen. If you're talking, you're not learning. And selling is really about learning the right answer from the customers, what will be the best presentation, and then making the exact right presentation for this family from a safe standpoint of what is the code for this family. If you could say this entire situation that you're involved with, if I could boil it down to one sentence or one word or even 3 words, just a very short sentence, what would this be about? Would it be about safety? Would it be about pride of ownership? Would it be about luxury? What are these people all about? And then you'd find out that code by listening to what people are all about and then making that right presentation. Many times guys make that presentation, which tells me that really you cannot, by listening and making the right presentation after you listen, shows that you cannot just take the same presentation and make it over and over again. It just doesn't fit, does it, Rick?
Right. It really helps you personalize things. The customer can see that this presentation was really made for them, not like a cookie cutter thing. And it makes it more personal with them.
All right, number 14, Rick, is great bonding skills. A heavy hitter feels like you've known them for years. I mean, how deep can you go with a customer? I mean, you sell to a lot of different customers, Rick. I know you're a very busy man, but how well do you get to know your customers?
I get to know them very well, and that's really the joy of my job. I like meeting new people. I like finding about new people, about what makes them tick and about what their life is. So, I look forward to going to a sales call because I get the opportunity to bond with somebody new. And I think that's really a sign of a heavy hitter, someone who enjoys meeting new people and learning about them. And that's something you can't fake. I mean, if you're faking it now, you can practice it and you can develop that, where there's the things you can ask about the customer that you can really get to bond with them very well. I find peppering your bonding experience is the best way to do it. You make it all one way or the other. You make it all personal or all business. It's not natural. You have to pepper it with some personal, pepper it with some business, and then you'll start to have a great opportunity to bond with that customer.
All right. Core value number 15, Rick, is that a heavy hitter deals with unique budgets and helps find the right solution how to pay for it. How do you find that matrix of how much do you profile customers or look at somebody's house and say, here's a poor guy, I can only quote him a certain amount of money, or here's a rich guy, he's going to buy a large amount. How do you deal with finding the budget, Rick?
No, I give them the budget from the very best down to the least. Even
a poor guy or somebody who looks like they're downtrodden?
Customer. For instance, I had a customer today, had no heat, and didn't have any money, filed bankruptcy. And so what we ended up doing is we ended up talking to his parents and doing the financing to his parents. So I said, listen, you don't got to ask your parents for $10,000, but ask them if I can go to the house and fill out the financing paperwork and you can pay back take the loan. So I found a unique solution that turned into a sale for me. Because if he just said I don't have the money and I'm bankrupt and I walked out, then it would have cost me the sale.
So no profiling, right? Because hey, if we profile people, we wouldn't have a new president right now, would we?
That's right.
We'd have a different profile, which would be the normal profile for a president, as opposed to the one we have right now, right? No comment?
No comment.
Rick, I think you're the only Republican in Rhode Island, aren't you?
That's right, just me. Of all the people that voted, there was one Republican vote, that was me.
All right. We like to go back and forth on those subjects like that. We like to talk about current events. Keeps it fresh, doesn't it, Rick? All right, anyway. So how about number 16, the core value number 16? They find out why each unique customer will buy their service. So they find the actual reason why, not just to find the budget, but to find the reason, right? Instead of just saying the furnace is old or saying that it's time to buy a furnace, they find the real reason, right? I mean, how many times do people tell you a fake reason the first time that they tell you they're going to buy something, right, Rick?
Right, exactly. They always say, well, so what inspired you to call me out here today? Oh, well, it's time for a new furnace. Oh, really? What's made you feel as though you need a new furnace? Well, it's 25 years old. I'm like, well, I'm 45. I mean, I hope my kids don't throw me out. I mean, 25 years. It was old 10 years ago. Why? What's the big hurry now?
Right. So you make them
go down that road just to find out what the real reasons are.
You find out, you uncover the onion. It's like peeling an onion, isn't it, Rick? That you can't just take the first reason that people. If you don't know why people are moving forward, then you're going to have no energy to handle an objection later on. Otherwise, if you don't believe they need a furnace, then what's the passion in selling a furnace then, right?
Right, exactly. Then you start to find out, who's been servicing it. To tell you the truth, no one's been servicing it, and we haven't serviced it in years, and we've been neglecting it. So now that you know what's going to be unique for those customers, that you can provide some services along with this furnace, protect a new investment, it's going to be very attractive because they know they're not going to do it.
Right, exactly. Well, we're going to move on to number 17, Rick, and that's that heavy hitters make customers earn the right to get their presentations. Presentations just don't come from, we mentioned this before, but this is something that a heavy hitter understands that his presentation has value because he's going to tell a customer information that nobody else tells them, and so that information is valuable. I think the saying I have, Rick, is that the best presentation you're ever going to make is the one you never made at all, the one that you held off on completely.
Right, and I think you said hit the nail on the head earlier about estimates. Listen, if we're just giving estimates, I'm going out and throwing out estimates, then hey, it's a free estimate. But if I'm going to go out there and take my time and prepare a specialized on-code presentation, it's not unreasonable for me to ask that the customer earns the right to receive it, and to be willing to give me a commitment for a decision when I do make the presentation. That's not even fair; it's just right.
And then we move on to core value number 18, Rick, which is a heavy hitter gets commitments and decisions after every presentation, meaning that heavy hitters bring back results after a presentation. Now, they don't necessarily have to give the presentation on the same day they go out there the first time, but whenever they decide to put that paper down in front of a customer, their commitment is to get a decision, get this thing done with, right? To get a commitment of no or get a commitment of yes, or tell them that I'm committed to telling you no if that's the case. That's basically the same type of thing, but to really focus on that decision, right?
Right. You know, and it's amazing that if you stick to this principle about getting a decision, most of the time it's going to be yes, right? Because if you're not committed to getting a decision after every presentation, 50% of the time at least it'll be no. But if you're committed to it, then 80% of the time or the more, the decision will be yes, because you're really going to get the reason why the customer is not making a decision at that time. You know, when a customer's not ready to make a decision, what that tells me is that I haven't done enough to give them enough information to be able to make one. It means they're still searching for something. So if they're still searching for something, they still need something to make a decision, why would I not help them? Why would I not give them the information they need so they can make one?
I guess that goes back to taking that responsibility. So all these kind of core values intertwine. I can see that, Rick, right? I mean, they all kind of come together. One kind of overlaps the other in many different ways. You can kind of see this and feel it. We find ourselves repeating some of these things in a different way, from a different angle in some way.
Right.
Rick, number 19 is that a heavy hitter looks at success as infinite and only limited by his desire. Meaning that, Rick, let me ask you a question. If you start seeing another salesperson in your company catch fire, do you look at like he's taking my calls or he's taking my opportunities? Is that something that creeps into your mind at all?
No. I mean, my brother just came over and took half my territory, right? And it just gives me more time to concentrate on my territory and develop that even more. It doesn't bother me at all. You know, but it's really important to look at success as being infinite, because I made pretty good money when I sold $2.5 million a year, right, Joe? Mm-hmm. And at that time, I thought I was pretty much at the maximum what I could sell. It would tend to say I make a lot more money at $4.5 to $5 million a year. What do you think?
Well, I would say so. It all stands to add up, doesn't it?
Right, it does. You know what I mean? So I'm not really going to limit myself mentally by saying that I can only sell a certain amount.
And so isn't it funny how, though, when a company hires another salesperson, all the other sales guys sometimes go, well, we don't need another salesperson. I can do all those calls, right? And the truth is that why don't you just sell the calls you got and not worry about other people? You know, to work. Actually, I think that it's very short-sighted to say that you're the only person who can sell something in a company, because the more people who can sell, the more successful the company is. The more successful the company is, the more benefits and pay you're going to get just from having a more successful company, right, Rick?
True, very true.
Because if you sell a lot of money for a weak company that's not successful, you're still not going to get paid, because what will happen is you're going to have a conflict with your payment, and then all of a sudden you just don't get paid. And I think you've been through that before with a different company before, you told me, right?
Exactly what happened, yep.
We won't mention any names, but the bottom line is that to be successful, but working for a company that's not doing well is the kiss of death for any salesperson, right?
Right. I mean, if the company's not making any money and the salesperson is not making any money, it's going to be a win-win. It's not going to work out.
Rick, number 20, core value number 20, we're coming down to the post here. I think we're going to make it, actually, is core value number 20 is that a heavy hitter is committed to paying the price for a higher standard of living. So Rick, we talked about your swimming pool and your trip to Poland last couple of months ago. You went there for a couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks. You went to Poland with your lovely wife, who is Polish, Monica. She's a very, I don't know if anybody knows, but Rick really married up in this case. We never showed a picture of Rick's wife, but if you saw her, she probably
I can argue with you, Joe, but I can't.
Yeah, she's very attractive and a very nice person too, and one of the nicest people I've ever met actually. And you're very fortunate. I don't know how she married down to you, Rick, but you did. That's the best sales job you ever did, I guess.
That's right. It's like she's doing charity work, Joe.
Right, but Rick, there's a price to pay for that, right? There's many times you brought Monica on a couple calls and had her sit in the truck a couple times. There's a lot of things you do that most salespeople wouldn't do, right?
Right. And when I think of paying the price, it's not only the fact that I take calls late at night and weekends and whenever they're there. It's also paying the price by learning a better way of doing things and applying yourself to that standard. For, like I said, like taking the time to go to the total immersion seminar, and also taking the time and effort to read the books and hone your skill and practice these practices and standards.
Yeah, it's not just time. It's time to improve yourself, like you're saying. How many books on sales do you read every month? I mean, I think a salesperson every single month should at least one book on sales. And it doesn't mean you believe in it or believe with it, but you can see where other people are not doing it right, or you can see where they are doing it right. You can evaluate other systems and evaluate everything. I think everything should be looked at. I am not saying that just because you belong to contractorselling.com that you shouldn't try and look at other information, right? Because I think information is the key to our success, isn't it?
Absolutely. And there are a lot of good books you can read that really help you to see where the principles beside why things really work.
All right, then we're going to go on to number 21. The final core value is that a heavy hitter. Number 21 core value. It is moral, has respect and ethics when dealing with everyone they deal with. Meaning that they treat people fair. They realize that they're dealing mainly in human capital, and that the human capital is the most important thing that they deal with every day. How important is that, Rick, to maintain the respect of everybody you deal with internally and externally?
Listen, let's face it. You can buy a box anywhere. They can buy plumbing or electrical work anywhere, right? But what they can't buy is you. So we have to make sure that if they do purchase from me, I'm going to guarantee that they're going to get what they paid for and more. So I'm going to make sure that we do everything we say we're going to do, and we're ethical, and we give them everything they're supposed to. We do the right thing for the customer. So, that's really what they're paying for, right, Joe?
Exactly. Really what we're doing is we're making people. This is a people business, not a furnace business or an air conditioning business. We're in the people business, right, Rick? That's the bottom line here.
I think you did it, Joe.
All right, that's it. We did it. Thank you, everybody.